So now we are going to see about specific deductions. In specific deductions, we are going to see about research expenditure. So research expenditure is different from other expenditures because under research expenditure and one is Section 35 2AB, even the capital expenditure can be claimed as an expense, right? So what we will do is we'll discuss about research expenditure and then about what to say allowance in case of specified businesses under 35 AD, and then we'll just discuss other sections. So now in this block, we are going to discuss about research expenditure. So as far as research expenditure is concerned, you have two major categories. One is in-house R&D, other one is contribution to other institutions. Right. As far as in-house R&D is concerned, the provisions are given in 35.11, 35.14, and 35.2AB. For contributions to other institutions, 35.12, 35.12A, 35.1III, 35.2AA, 35.CCC, and 35CCD are the sections. Right. So first, let us understand about research expenditure. Research expenditure broadly classified into two: capital research expenditure and revenue research expenditure. So revenue research expenditure whatever is there post commencement of business, right? Whatever is there post commencement of business can be claimed as deduction if it is in relation to the business of the assessee. Any revenue expenditure which is in relation to business of the assessee, if it is post commencement, can be claimed as deduction. What is the deduction? 100% of revenue expenditure. However, if assume for example in the current year, that is assessment year, 23-24, I'm starting a business. Okay. In assessment year 21 to 23, basically 2 years, assessment year 21-22 and 22-23, I have done research for me to start this business. இப்போ நான் புதுசாக ஒரு ப்ராடக்ட் கண்டுபிடிக்கிறேன், அந்த ப்ராடக்ட்டுக்கு உண்டான ரிசர்ச்சை அசஸ்மெண்ட் 21-22 22-23 ஓகேவா பண்ணிட்டு அந்த எக்ஸ்பெண்டிச்சர் would not have been claimed in accounting because that is not during that was not incurred during the current period. So அந்த expenditure accounting claim பண்ண முடியாது. But in income tax you can claim the expenditure, the revenue expenditure in relation to research which is before the commencement of business. So expenditure incurred before 3 years of commencement of business can be claimed as reduction. So there is a time bar. So up to 3 years you can claim the reduction. What can be claimed as reduction? Salary except perquisite. You cannot claim the perquisite and materials purchased alone. Only two things. One is raw material purchases and the other one is salaries. These two things can be claimed as expenditure in the year in which the operation has commenced. In the first year of operation, you can claim the salary expenditure and material purchase cost in relation to research expenditure. So revenue expenditure before commencement, after commencement. Same is the case with capital expenditure. Before commencement, after commencement. Any capital expenditure in relation to research, if it is after the commencement of business and is in relation to business of the assessee, 100% of the capital expenditure except land can be claimed as reduction. Okay, well, however, if it is before commencement of business, same thing. Up to we have a time limit up to 3 years, right? So up to 3 years, the whatever capital expenditure has been incurred up to 3 years. So basically, இந்த வருஷத்துல இருந்து 3 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி என்ன capital expenditure incur பண்ணிருக்கோமோ அதை deduction 35(2) claim பண்ண முடியும், right? So இங்கேயும் the land cost cannot be claimed as deduction, right? One point which you should remember here is நம்ம depreciation பார்க்கறச்சே பார்த்தோம், until or unless the entire cost has been claimed as deduction அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு பார்த்தோம் இல்லையா? So until or unless the entire cost has been claimed as deduction in the point தான், right? So if the 100% of cost is allowed as expenditure in a single year by virtue of section 35(14) or section 35(2), then again you cannot claim the reduction. திரும்ப depreciation claim பண்ண முடியாது. இப்போ நீ 2000 current yearல capex பண்ற அப்படின்னா அந்த 2000மே உனக்கு current yearலயே capex இருந்தாலும் பரவாயில்லன்னு சொல்லிட்டு if the entire 2000 if it can be claimed as deduction, திரும்ப இந்த 2000 காஸ்ட்டுக்கு you cannot claim the depreciation as per section 32(1)(2). Okay, that is in relation to capital expenditure. Next is in-house R&D. Basically this section is written in now because 115 BAA, BAB companies cannot take 35 to AB, but they can take 3511 and 3514. அது allowed. நியூ ஸ்கீம் ஆஃப் டாக்ஸேஷன் சொல்லுவோம். ஸோ நியூ ஸ்கீம் ஆஃப் டாக்ஸேஷன்ல 35 to AB கிடையாது. அதே மாதிரி டெப்ரிசியேஷன்ல அடிஷனல் டெப்ரிசியேஷன் கிடையாது. 35 to AB is not there, additional depreciation is not there. Normal depreciation உண்டு, additional depreciation மட்டும் கிடையாது. Right. So in case of 35 to AB, all expenditure and all revenue expenditure and capital expenditure which is incurred in the current year other than land and building shall be claimed as reduction under 35 to AB. As there are certain conditions, assessee must be a company. It should be engaged in the business of biotechnology or manufacture. The R&D facility should be approved by the relevant authority. Separate account should be maintained. இந்த 4 conditions satisfy பண்ணா மட்டும்தான் 35 to AB we can claim the deduction. But generally the section is redundant now for two reasons. முன்னாடி வந்து 35 to AB வந்து weighted deduction இருந்துச்சு. பட் இப்போ weighted deduction கிடையாது. அதனால 3511 3514A you can claim extra deduction. இப்போ இங்க பாத்தீங்கன்னா உனக்கு capex-ல வந்து பில்டிங்குமே கிடையாது. பட் 3514லேயே வந்து you can claim it except land மட்டும்தான். Building can be claimed as deduction under 3514. So 35 to AB-ல தான் building கிடையாது. So to put it simply, இதுல வந்து மேபி டெஸ்ட் பண்றதுக்கு இந்த கண்டிஷன்ஸ் என்ன அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு டெஸ்ட் பண்ணலாம். அதர் தேன் தட் ஐ டோன்ட் திங்க் 35 to AB will be tested. Next is contribution to specified research institutions. So as far as research is concerned, either I can do the research myself or I can ask somebody to do research on my behalf, right? So if I'm just going to ask somebody else to do research on my behalf, if I'm going to pay some money, how should I claim the reduction? அதுதான் இந்த இதுல கொடுத்திருக்கேன். So if the payment is made to a notified research association or an approved university, college or other institution, so scientific research, if it is related to business or not, can be claimed as deduction, right? Whether related to business or not, if the payment is made to approved university, college or institution. அதே மாதிரி approved research association, college or institution, social science or statistical research அப்படின்னா 3513, scientific researchனா 3512, social statistical researchனா 3513. ரெண்டுத்துக்குமே related to business or not அப்படின்ற ஒரு பாயிண்ட் இருக்கும். If it is made to any Indian company whose main objective is to research, அப்படி போயிருந்ததுன்னா scientific research cost alone can be claimed as reduction. If the payment is made to national laboratory or a university or an IIT, scientific research undertaken under a program prescribed by the authority. So இதுல வந்து mostly it will be only for the business purposes, right? So இப்போ இங்க வந்து நமக்கு capital expenditure வந்து deduction claim பண்ணோம் இல்லையா? So if you are going to sell this asset, sell that capital asset, what should be done அப்படின்றது it is given in 41(3) read with section 45. So if that asset is sold without subsequent use அப்படின்னா, so what you should do is sale consideration or deduction allowed under section 35. That is இங்க நம்ம எவ்வளவு deduction claim பண்ணிருக்கோம் or sale consideration, whichever is higher shall be deemed to be the business profits. Okay, sale consideration or deduction allowed under section 35 shall be deemed to be business profits. So over and above cost, it will be treated as capital gains. It will go to section 45. If it is used for subsequent use, it will be added to the block, but அதனோட value வந்து nil ஆயிடும் because already the entire deduction has been claimed, right? So we'll just take this example. So first, the income before section 35 was 100 lakhs, revenue expenditure 80, capex 70. So உனக்கு வந்து total 50 lakhs loss வந்துரும். Right? This can be set off against it. This can be carried forward for any number of years and can be set off against any head of income. So இதை வந்து ஸ்பெசிஃபிக்கா நம்ம திரும்ப லாஸஸ் பார்க்கறச்சேவும் பார்ப்போம், right? So if any expenditure is incurred for agricultural extension project, reduction can be claimed under section 35CCC. And if it is for any skill development project, it can be claimed under 35CCT. Right? So this is in relation to the research expenditure. So is there any doubts in relation to research expenditure first? Yeah. Others? Is there any doubts in relation to research expenditure? Yes, no, yes, no. Okay. Yes. Somebody read this question. Maybe Kirti, read this question. Yes. Someone else? Naveen, read this question.
Mr. A furnishes the following particulars for the previous year 2022 to 23. Compute the deduction allowable under Section 35 for assessment year 23 to 24 while computing his income under the head PGBP. Particulars amount paid to notified approved Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore for scientific research 1 lakh. Amount paid to IIT Delhi for an approved scientific research program 2,50,000. Amount paid to X Limited, a company registered in India which has as its main object scientific research and development as it is approved by the prescribed authority 4 lakh. Expenditure incurred on in-house research and development facility as approved by the prescribed authority. Revenue expenditure on scientific research 3 lakh. Capital expenditure including cost of acquisition of land 5 lakh. On scientific research 7 lakh 50,000.
Solve பண்ண பார்க்கலாம் டக்குன்னு. As rightly said by Naveen, the answer is 13 lakhs. So how did that come? We'll just check it here. So if the amount is paid to a notified approved Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore for scientific research, can be claimed as reduction. Section 35(1)(2). The rate of reduction is 100%. This is not relevant today, but before it was like there was a weighted reduction concept, but now the weighted reduction is entirely done away with, so it is not there. The Indian Institute of Science 35(1)(2), 1 lakhs. Next is amount paid to IIT Delhi 2.5 lakhs. It paid to X Limited, a company registered in India as its main objective is research and development, and it is approved by the prescribed authority. Since it is approved, you can claim the entire 4 lakhs here. So expenditure incurred on in-house R&D as approved by the prescribed authority. Revenue expenditure 3 lakhs fully claimed. Capital expenditure including cost of acquisition of land. Cost of acquisition of land cannot be claimed as deduction. So other than that, it will be 2.5 lakhs, so totally 13 lakhs, right? So this is one more question. Yeah, if you remember, you just write it here. Don't try to remember for these things, right? For this, it is not that important. Okay. So now we'll just go to the next question. So Dynamic India and Company commences production on 16/8/2022. It incurred the following expenses related to scientific research. Find deduction under Section 35 for the previous year 22-23. Assume net profit as per book is 10 lakhs. Compute PGBP income. Amount paid to an approved university for research in social science 50,000 non-business. On 15/10/2022, paid to a scientist, not the employee of the company 30,000 business purpose. 18/11/22, paid to approved national laboratory 60,000 for not for business purpose. 15/12, purchase of land and building, cost of land 1.5, total 5 lakhs business purpose. 18/12/2022, purchase of car to carry out research workers 2 lakhs business purpose. From 16/8/2019 to 15/8/2022, capital expenditure including cost of land of 1 lakhs 5 lakhs. From 16/8/2019 to 15/8/2022, purchase of material 3 lakhs. 16/8/19 to 15/8/22, payment of salary 2 lakhs other than perquisite. Perquisite 1 lakh, same date, other than revenue expenditure 80,000. 1/4/2019 to 15/8/2019, capital expenditure other than land 9 lakhs. 15/8/2019, payment of salary other than perquisite 50,000. 1/4/2017 to 31/3/2019, capex 80,000. 31/3/2019, revenue expenditure 30,000. Right. So just solve this question quickly, Bakla. There are two parts to the question. Just remember that and then do it. So first one will be what will be the deduction. Second one is how to compute PGBP income. These are the two aspects, right? As far as this question is concerned, first we need to check what are all the deductions which is available, what is not available. So இங்க பார்த்தேன்னா 2022 commence ஆயிருக்கு business. So 3 years before இருக்குன்னா it is allowed. So before 3 years, whatever expenditure has been incurred, it shall not be allowed. Right. So basically from 1/4/17 to 31/3/19 இருக்கிற எதுவுமே it is not allowable. Correct? So இந்த 80,000 அதுக்கப்புறமா revenue expenditure of this 30,000. then capex of this 9 lakhs, and then payment of salary other than perquisite. So all these four are before 3 years, and hence it is not allowable, right? In the நாளும் முடிஞ்சிடுச்சு. Next, let us come to the period 16/8/2019 to 15/8/2022. And the period will just come. So including cost of land 1 lakh, excluding cost of land 4 lakhs. So 4 lakhs is allowable. Next, payment of salary other than perquisites 2 lakhs allowable. So perquisite provided to research personnel, it shall not be claimed as reduction. Purchase of material, it can be claimed as reduction. So 3 years purchase of material and salary other than perquisites alone can be claimed as reduction. Right? Other revenue expenditure cannot be claimed as reduction. Next, whatever has been incurred during the current year. So as far as current year expenditure is concerned, everything can be claimed as reduction other than cost of land. Paid to an approved university for research and social science can be claimed as reduction. Paid to a scientist can be claimed as reduction. And then paid to approved national laboratory can be claimed as reduction. Purchase of land, cost of land cannot be, purchase of land and building, cost of land cannot be claimed as reduction. And then purchase of car to carry the research workers, that can also be claimed as reduction. So the entire reduction amount will be 15,90,000. Right? So this is the provision. So now what is to be done to compute the PGBP income? Is the next part. Right? So as far as that part is concerned, net profit as per P&L 10 lakhs. Right? So take that 10 lakhs. In the 4 lakhs, 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, it would not have been claimed as reduction. It would not have been debited to the P&L, because all these are in relation to the preceding financial years. Right? So adanal and the moonutha mattum take claim as reduction. So 4 lakhs, 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs. The pay to approved university is current year expenditure. So this would have already been claimed if it is revenue in nature. Correct? In the 50,000 it would have been claimed. Paid to a scientist, it would have been claimed. So நீ எதுவும் பண்ண வேண்டாம். Paid to approved national laboratory, it would have been claimed. நீ எதுவும் பண்ண வேண்டாம். Purchase of land and building பொறுத்த வரைக்கும், land and building cost would not have been included. It would not have been debited to P&L. So the 3.5 lakhs வந்து நீ deduction claim பண்ணணும். Purchase of car for research workers, same, this is a capital expenditure. This would not have been debited to P&L. அதனால அதையும் debit பண்ணணும். So totally, the loss under the head PGBP will come to 4,50,000. Is this clear? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, is it clear? Hello? Clear? புரியுறதோ?
Yes, sir.
So as far as this question is concerned, so it does commence the business of setting up a warehouse facility for storage of food grains, sugar and edible oil. So storage of food grains only, storage of sugar only, storage of edible oil on 1/4/22. Capex in the 80 lakhs, 60 lakhs, 50 lakhs respectively on purchase of land and building during the period Jan 22 to March 22, exclusively for the above businesses. And capital is the same in books of accounts. The cost of land included in the above figures. During the previous year, he incurred a capital expenditure of 20 lakhs, 15 lakhs, and 10 lakhs for extension or reconstruction of building purchased. Compute income under the head PGBP and the loss to be carried forward, assuming that has kind of fulfilled all the conditions for 35 AD. Right? Profit from setting up a warehousing facility for food grains, sugar, edible oil, before claiming deduction under section 35, 35 AD and 35(2) for AY 23, 24 is 16, 14, and 31. Also assume in respect of expenditure incurred, the payment is made by account pay check or account pay draft. So இங்க வந்து edible oil business வந்து edible oil வந்து it is the not a specified business. So அதனால வந்து அது நார்மல் பிசினஸா தான் எடுத்துக்கணும். So normal business profit வந்து 31 lakhs கொடுத்திருக்காங்க. So இந்த 31 lakhs எடுத்து இங்க போட்டுக்கணும் first. Right? Next வந்து depreciation. If it is a normal business, you cannot claim 35 AD, you can just claim depreciation. So depreciation மட்டும் தான் நம்மளால claim பண்ண முடியும். So here if you just see, there is an expenditure of 50 lakhs, அதுல வந்து 30 lakhs land போயிடுது. So அதை வந்து claim பண்ண முடியாது. And then 10 lakh வந்து additions. So on total of 30 lakhs, 10% you can claim, that is 3 lakhs. So 28 lakhs will be income from PGBP for edible oil business. So other than edible oil business நீங்க பார்த்தனா first வந்து income வந்து 16 lakhs 14 lakhs, so it is going to be 16 lakhs and 14 lakhs. Capital expenditure incurred prior to 1/4/22, that is prior to commencement of business and capitalized in the books of accounts, excluding expenditure incurred on acquisition of land. So இது வந்து நமக்கு research expenditure இருந்து நம்ம அப்படியே எடுத்துட்டோம், right, for the period of 3 years. So இது வந்து 30/20 is the total capital expenditure. 30/20 எப்படி வருது அப்படின்னா 80 minus 50, 60 minus 40, right? So you are just getting 30 and 20 lakhs. So capital expenditure incurred during the current year is 20 lakhs and 15 lakhs. 20 lakhs and 15 lakhs. So that can also be claimed as deduction. So what is the total capital expenditure? 50 lakhs, 35 lakhs. இப்போ இதில் 100% of capital expenditure can be claimed as deduction. So இந்த 50 அப்படியே ஃபுல்லாக deduction எடுத்துடலாம், 35 அப்படியே ஃபுல்லாக deduction எடுத்துடலாம். So other deductions எதுவுமே கிடையாது. Since it has gone for 3580, there is no depreciation allowance. There is no depreciation allowance, right? So depreciation allowance இல்லாததுனால the total deduction it is going to be 50 lakhs, 35 lakhs, and then the loss from the specified business it is going to be 34 lakhs and 21 lakhs. So 16 lakhs minus 50 it is going to be 34, 14 minus 35 it is going to be 21. So this is the total loss. இது வந்து normal businessக்கு, normal edible businessக்கு. இது வந்து for business under 3580. So in the 3580 businessல வர loss வந்து can be set off only against 3580 income, and it can be carried forward for any number of previous years and can be set off against income from these specified businesses, right? So with that, our discussion of 3580 comes to an end. Now let us go to the next part of the chapter, which is spread over deductions. So as far as spread over deductions is concerned, spread over deductions அப்படின்னா என்னன்னா, if a deduction is claimed incurred in 1 year and claimed over multiple periods of time, அதுக்கு பேர் வந்து ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஓவர் டிடக்ஷன்ஸ் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு சொல்லுவோம். இப்போ கரண்ட் இயர்லயே மொத்த எக்ஸ்பெண்டிச்சரை இன்கர் பண்ணிடுவோம், பட் இட் வில் பி கிளைம்ட் அஸ் டிடக்ஷன் அண்ட் இன் மல்டிபிள் இயர்ஸ். தட் இஸ் நோன் அஸ் ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஓவர் டிடக்ஷன்ஸ். ஸோ ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஓவர் டிடக்ஷன்ஸ் வந்து இட் இஸ் கண்டெயின் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வந்து வில் ஸ்பீக் அபவுட் ப்ரிலிமினரி எக்ஸ்பென்சஸ். ப்ரிலிமினரி எக்ஸ்பென்சஸ் வந்து இட் கேன் பி, ஸோ ஜென்ரலாக உனக்கு எல்லாத்துக்குமே 4 வரும். வாட் இஸ் தி எலிஜிபிள் அசசி, குவாண்டம் ஆஃப் அமௌண்ட், வாட் இஸ் தி குவாலிஃபைங் அமௌண்ட், வாட் இஸ் தி அமௌண்ட் ஆஃப் டிடக்ஷன், வாட் இஸ் தி மீனிங். ஸோ எலிஜிபிள் அசசி வந்து if assessee is an Indian company under resident assessee, foreign companies ku non-residents ku they cannot claim the spread over deduction of preliminary expenditure. So preliminary expenditure and as per accounting you can claim it in the first year or you can spread it over, whether you are in accounting standards or Ind AS, there is a difference in treatment. However here, if only for a company and resident assessees you can claim the preliminary expenditure as deductions, right? So whatever amount is been is the qualifying amount that can be claimed as deduction over 5 equal installments. So the first year will be the year in which the business is commenced, and from that year you can take it for 5 years. What is the qualifying amount? Eligible preliminary expenditure or 5% of cost of project, whichever is lower. இதுதான் qualifying amount. இந்த ரெண்டுத்துல எது லோவரா இருக்கோ அதை எடுத்துட்டு அதை divided by 5 போட்டு 5 years you can claim it. However, if the company is an Indian company, right? If the company is an Indian company, instead of cost of project, they can choose to employ capital employed. Capital employed எடுத்துக்கலாம். If it is an Indian company. If it is not an Indian company, it should definitely go for eligible preliminary expenditure or a 5% of cost of project, whichever is lower. What do you mean by preliminary expenditure? Preliminary expenditure means any expenditure incurred by an assessee before the commencement of business. So what is eligible, I'm not getting deep into it. There is a huge list and I'm not expecting this to be tested in exam because it is in relation to companies, and generally in relation to companies it will not come in big question. Maybe if at all they just want, they can test it in MCQ, right? So that is the reason I'm not getting deep into it. Can the amalgamated company or the resulting company claim deduction under 35D? Yes, they can go for spread over deduction under section 35D, right? What do you mean by capital employed? Aggregate of share capital, long-term borrowings and debentures as on the last day of the previous year. Long-term borrowings will include only the borrowings from the financial institution and it will not include borrowings from any other person, right? Next is amalgamation or demerger expenditure. Amalgamation or demerger expenditure can be claimed in similar to what has been discussed for preliminary expenditure. It can be claimed in 5 years from the year in which the amalgamation or demerger takes place. Here only Indian company can claim this deduction, right? In respect of VRS expenditure, all the assessees can claim this VRS expenditure. So whatever is the compensation with respect to VRS can be claimed as deduction. 1/5 of the amount which is paid in the previous year can be claimed as deduction. Next is expenditure on promotion of family planning and family planning among employees. This is given under section 3619. So here again the eligible assessee is a company. So who can claim what is the amount which is eligible for deduction is the amount which is incurred for the promotion of family planning among employees. Here the revenue expenditure can be claimed fully in the year in which it is spent. In respect of capital expenditure, it can be taken over in 5 equal installments. So that's it. That is in relation to preliminary expenditure. Generally எல்லாத்துக்குமே 5 years period. First on the preliminary expenditure, amalgamation demerger expenditure, VRS expenditure, and family planning expenditure. So this is one simple block. This is not very important for the examination, but just for the sake of, if it is tested in MCQs, we just need to know something for us to answer. That is the reason we have just discussed that. Now let us go to the part which is actually important for exam. Yeah. Now we will speak about section 37 and section 36, where we'll discuss about general deductions and specific deductions, right? Yeah. So as far as section 37 is concerned, right, section 37 will speak about general deduction, right? As per section 37, whatever expenditure which is not covered from section 30 to 36, if all these conditions are satisfied, any expenditure can be claimed as expense. Any expenditure for that matter can be claimed as an expense. So இதுக்கு முன்னாடி நம்ம பார்த்தது வந்து எல்லாமே specific deductions. If an item is specifically having that nature, for example research, or it is going to have the nature of a VRS, it has a specific provision. Rent and repairs, it has a specific provision. Depreciation, it has a specific provision. So if an expenditure is not in the nature which is covered from section 30 to 36, just assume in the Indian context what are all the expenditures are there, and can everything of it be listed by the Income Tax Act? It is practically impossible, right? So what they said is they just gave the principles which will govern whether an expenditure can be claimed as a deduction or not. அது வந்து section 37ல கொடுத்திருக்காங்க. So this is known as section 37 is known as general deduction, right? So as per section 37, whatever expenditure is not covered from section 30 to 36, and if the expenditure is not in a capital nature, it is not in personal nature, and it is incurred for the purpose of business or profession of the assessee, then any such expenditure can be claimed as deduction. மொத்தம் 4 conditions satisfy பண்ணணும். First, it should not be in the nature of section 30 to 36. Second, it should not be capital in nature. Third, it should not be personal in nature. Fourth, it should be incurred for the purpose of business of the assessee, right? இதில் வந்து 3 specifically they have excluded 3 things. One is the amount spent on CSR activity. So whatever amount is spent for CSR activity, that cannot be claimed as deduction. CSR என்ன உனக்கு தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். It is known as corporate social responsibility அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. So corporate social responsibility, you should contribute 2% of your net profit if certain criteria which are given in the Companies Act are satisfied. So whatever amount you are expending for the purposes of CSR, that cannot be claimed as expenditure. Second one, the unlawful expenditure cannot be claimed as deduction. Third one, any grant or freebie provided to doctors in violation of Indian Medical Council regulation, that cannot be claimed as deduction. So இதுக்கு பின்னாடி I'm not going to the backstories. So first, let us go to some questions and answers like quiz point. So if there is an income tax, interest on advances can be claimed as deduction. Income tax is not paid for the purpose of business or profession, right? It is incidental to business. It is not for the purpose of business, hence that cannot be claimed as deduction. Over interest on advance tax, late filing fee, that will also not be allowed as deduction. Interest on monies borrowed for payment of income tax, can that be claimed as deduction? It cannot be claimed as deduction because that is personal in nature. Next one, the money is paid for increase in share capital and legal expenses in relation to the same, can it be claimed as deduction? No, it cannot be claimed as deduction. That was specifically dealt by the Brookbond case law. இதை தாண்டி there are multiple things which the court have said you should claim this, you should not claim this, right? இது வந்து just சும்மா ஒரு ரொம்ப இம்பார்ட்டண்டா இருக்கிறத மட்டும் ஒரு 3 things we learn, right? Next வந்து we'll now learn about bad debts. So bad debts, when can we claim the reduction? Generally, as students of accounting, will be more into to the concept of bad debts, but here the bad debts will work a bit differently, right? So இங்க எப்படி நம்ம bad debts வந்து claim பண்ணுவோம் அப்படின்னா, there are certain conditions which is to be satisfied. Totally, there are 3 conditions which is to be satisfied for you to claim any debt as bad debt. First condition, the amount of such debt should have been included in the income of the assessee. இப்போ நான் ஒரு பேட் டெட் நான் ரைட் ஆஃப் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா, இப்போ அசியூம் ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் ஐ ஹாவ் டு ரைட் ஆஃப் 10 lakhs as bad debts நாட் ரெக்கவரபிள். இப்போ இந்த 10 lakhs வந்து நான் எதனா ஒரு இயர்ல என்னோட சேல்ஸ்ல நான் இன்க்ளூட் பண்ணியிருந்திருக்கோம். இன் எனி ஒன் இயர், நாட் இன் த கரண்ட் இயர் ஆர் இன் த ப்ரீவியஸ் இயர். இன் எனி ஆஃப் தி இயர் had I included that in my income, in any of the year had I included that in my income, only then I can claim reduction in relation to a bad debt. Second condition, it should have been actually written off as irrecoverable. Actually written off as irrecoverable அப்படின்னா bad debts written off மட்டும் தான். Provision for bad and doubtful debts you cannot claim as deduction until or unless you are in the business of banking, right? So whatever debt has been written off as bad, it can be claimed as reduction. Third point வந்து the business in respect of which the debt is incurred should be continued during the previous year. So in the 3 conditions, first condition, it should be included in the income of the assessee. Second வந்து the amount should have been actually written off. Third வந்து the debt which is incurred should be the business for which the debt is incurred should be continued in the previous year, right? So in the point that நம்ம already பார்த்தோம், can provision of bad debts be claimed as reduction? It cannot be claimed as reduction since it is not earmarked to the assessee. So second point வந்து just if I'm going to write it off in my books of accounts, is it enough, or should I prove that the debt is actually bad? They said that if you just write it off in the books of accounts, it is fine as per the case law of Vijaya Bank. Third point வந்து, can a successor to business claim bad debts? It is said that yes, the successor to the business can also claim bad debts because என்ன அதில் issue வந்துச்சு அப்படின்னா, இங்க பாரு, it should be included in the income of the assessee. So assume for example I'm doing my father's business. My father had a business. So அவர் வந்து assessment year 21-22ல, in the assessment year 21-22 he included 5 lakhs in his income. In the year 22-23 I'm taking over the business. In the year 23-24 this debt becomes bad. This 5 lakhs, it becomes bad, right? If it is going to become bad in the year 23-24, but had I included, இப்போ இதில் 3 conditions satisfy பண்ணணும் for me to claim the bad debt deduction. So first condition என்ன, it should be included in the income of the assessee. ஸோ நான் எப்போ இந்த பிஸ்னஸ் எடுத்துட்டேன் 22-23ல. ஸோ 22-23ல 5 lakhs இன்க்ளூட் பண்ணிருக்கேனா இல்லை, 23-24ல 5 lakhs இன்க்ளூட் பண்ணிருக்கேனா இல்லை, right? So basically I have not even included this in my income. Since it is not included in my income, can it be said that I cannot claim the reduction? அதுதான் இஷ்யூவாக வந்துச்சு. But what they said is, if at all it is successor to the business, can he claim bad debt reduction? Yes, he can claim the bad debt reduction அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு it was said in CET versus Veerabhadra Rao K. Koteshwara Rao case. In the case, right. Next is on the taxability of recovery of bad debts. So as far as recovery of bad debts is concerned, so generally when the bad debts written off இருந்துச்சுன்னா bad debt recovery அடுத்த point இருக்கும். Bad debts recovery is income. So அது income இப்போ எப்படி tax பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு பார்க்க போறோம். It is taxable in the year of recovery. So first வந்து the amount which is recovered should have been written off first. அந்த written off பண்ணியிருந்து அதுக்கு எனக்கு எக்ஸ்பெண்டிச்சரும் நான் கிளைம் பண்ணிருக்கணும் 3617ல. Only if I have claimed expenditure under 3617, the recovery of bad debts can be taxed under section 41(4). நான் 3617ல எக்ஸ்பெண்டிச்சரை வந்து அந்த இயர் in which the debt became bad, if I have not claimed the expenditure, that cannot be claimed as that cannot be taxed in the current year, right? So உனக்கு வந்து bad debt written off வந்து ஒரு கண்டிஷன் என்னன்னா, the business should be in existence. Only in such case you can claim the bad debts. But for recovery of bad debts, there is no such situation, so no such condition. Whether or not the business is in existence or not, it can be taxed in the year in which the bad debt is recovered, right? இங்க வந்து லைக் அங்க நம்ம பார்க்கறச்சே வந்து successor to the business can claim the deduction னு பார்த்தோம், கரெக்டா? பட் successor to the business here cannot be taxed. இப்போ எங்க அப்பா வந்து bad debts in, let us go to the same case. So in 21-22 my father wrote off 5 lakhs as bad debts. இப்போ 22-23ல I have taken over the business, and 23-24ல what I am doing is I am recovering this bad debt of 5 lakhs. இப்போ இந்த 5 lakhs என்னோட ஹேண்ட்ஸ்ல டாக்ஸ் பண்ண முடியுமா 23-24னா? they cannot do it. That was as per the decision of PK Kaimal abindra judgment. It was said that successor to the business cannot be taxed under 41(4). Yeah, the successor to the business cannot be taxed now. Whether or not the business is in existence, who is the person who should be taxed? The person who is the owner of the business. If he is not to be taxed, successor to the business cannot be taxed. Simple point. Right. Next வந்து இப்போ bad debts written off, recovery of bad debts பார்த்துட்டோம் ரைட்டா. அதுக்கு ஆப்போசிட் என்னது? liability is no longer required. So basically bad debts written off, அதுக்கு ஆப்போசிட் bad debts recovered. bad debts written off, bad debts write off பண்றோம்னா அப்ப trade liability நம்ம write off பண்ண முடியும் இல்லையா? So remission of trading liability, right? So whenever an allowance is allowed for loss expenditure of or a trading liability incurred by the assessee. If assume for example I have made purchases for 10 lakhs. இந்த 10 lakhs வந்து if I had claimed as an expenditure, current yearல என்னோட டெட்டார் என்ன சொல்லிட்டான், என்னோட கிரெடிட்டார் என்ன சொல்லிட்டானா, you need not pay this 10 lakhs கார்த்திக்னு சொல்லிட்டான். அப்போ எனக்கு இது இன்கம் தானே. So that is to be taxed in the year of remission 41(1) படி, right? இதுல திரும்ப வந்து the successor to the business can he be taxed அப்படின்னு பார்த்தா, successor to the business can be taxed because there is a specific what to say amendment even made in the act 41(1). இவ்வளவுதான். ஸோ மொத்தமே வந்து 3 பாயிண்ட் தான். பட் இங்க ஒரு பாயிண்ட் which you should remember is remission of trading liability alone is taxable, not the remission of any loan which is being given by the bank, right? So இப்போ நான் 10 lakhs இருக்குன்னா அந்த 10 lakhs in entirety had I claimed it as an expense, only then அதனோட remission வந்து it is taxable for me. Had I not claimed the same, it is not taxable for me, right? So that is in relation to remission of a trading liability. Is this clear till here? Is it clear till here? Hello
சார் ஒரே ஒரு டவுட் சார்.
சொல்லுப்பா.
சார் அந்த 3 கண்டிஷன் சொன்னீங்களா பேட் டெப்ட்ல, அதுல ஃபர்ஸ்ட் கண்டிஷன் வந்து பேட் டெப்ட வந்து இன்கம்மா எப்படி சார் இது
இப்போ
பண்ணுவாங்க,
பேட் டெட்
இன்க்ளூட்
வந்து
பண்ணுவாங்க?
வருதுன்னா ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஒரு டெட் இருக்கணும், அப்புறமா தான் அந்த டெட் வந்து பேட் டெட்டா மாறும், கரெக்டா?
ஆமா சார், ஆமா கரெக்ட்.
இப்போ டெட்டுக்கு நீ ஒரு டெட்டுக்கு டெட்டார் இருக்கானா, டெட்டாருக்கு நீ ஃபர்ஸ்ட் என்ட்ரி என்ன போடுவ? டெட்டார் அக்கவுண்ட் டெபிட்
சரி,
டு
ஓகே
சேல்ஸ்.
ஓகே ஓகே சார். வந்து டெட்டார்ஸ இன்க்ளூட் பண்ணியிருந்தா நம்ம வந்து இது பண்ணிக்கலாம்.
ஆமா, டெட்டார் டு சேல்ஸ் போடுவ. சோ சேல்ஸ் வந்து உன்னோட இன்கம் தானே, சேல்ஸ் இஸ் யுவர் இன்கம்.
ஆமா சார்,
கரெக்டா? அதனால ஃபர்ஸ்ட் அங்க இன்கம்ல இன்க்ளூட் பண்ணியிருந்தனா தான் உனக்கு எக்ஸ்பெண்டிச்சரே கொடுப்பேன்னு சொல்றான்.
ஓகே 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 சார்.
கிளியர்?
சார் ஒன் மோர் டவுட்.
சொல்லுமா.
சார் பிஜிபிபியை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் அக்கௌண்ட் வச்சு எல்லாமே இது பண்ணுமா சார்?
ஆமாமா, அக்கவுண்ட்ஸ்ல நம்ம என்ன பண்ணிருக்கோம், நம்ம இதுல என்ன பண்ணணும் அப்படின்றதுதான் பாயிண்ட்.
ஓகே சார்.
இது கேன் யூ ப்ளீஸ் கம் அகைன்? அக்கவுண்ட்ஸ் பேஸ் பண்ணி என்ன பண்ணணும்னு கேட்டியா?
இல்ல சார், பிஜிபிபி வந்து ஸ்டார்டிங்ல நீங்க வந்து அக்கௌண்ட்ஸும் டாக்ஸும்
வாய்ஸ் பிரேக் ஆகுறது உண்டு. ஐ அம் நாட் ஏபிள் டு ஹியர் யூ ப்ராப்பர்லி. just put it in message or mic கிட்ட வச்சு பேசு.
சார் இப்ப கேக்குதா சார்?
பெட்டர்.
சார் ஸ்டார்டிங்ல நீங்க அக்கௌண்ட்ஸையும் டாக்ஸும் சேர்ந்தே தான் பிஜிபிபில அதிகமா வரும்னு சொன்னீங்களா சார்?
Can you please message? I'm not able to hear you properly. So these things are some other deductions part. These are not that important. Just for the sake of completeness, I'm just doing this. Whatever is the insurance premium for stocks and shows, it can be claimed as deduction under 36(1)(1). Don't remember the section numbers and all. It is not required. So whatever is the insurance premium paid on the life of the cattle, it can also be claimed as deduction. ஸோ இந்த நம்ம லிஸ்ட்ல பாக்குறதுலாம் என்னன்னா எதுலாம் நம்ம டிடக்ஷனா கிளைம் பண்ண முடியும் அப்படின்றத பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கோம். ஓகேவா? So whatever is the insurance premium paid for stocks and stores can be claimed as deduction. Whatever is the insurance premium which is paid for the life of cattle, it can be claimed as deduction. Insurance premium which is taken on health of the employees can be claimed as deduction. Whatever is the bonus or commission which is paid to employees can be claimed as deduction. Interest on capital can be claimed as deduction. Discount on zero coupon bonds can be claimed as deduction. Right? So இதுல வந்து one of the important points வந்து இந்த ரெண்டு பாயிண்ட் தான் it is important. First வந்து interest on capital borrowed, second வந்து discount on zero coupon bonds. Right? So interest on capital borrowed, there are three conditions which is to be satisfied to claim the reduction. Is the recording going on? Yeah. There are three conditions which is to be satisfied for claiming an interest on capital borrowed. First one, the interest should be payable. அது பெய்டா இருக்கணும்னு அவசியம் இல்லை. Interest is payable by the SSE. Interest is payable by the SSE. So interest is payable for capital borrowed, and the capital borrowed is capital is borrowed for the purpose of business or profession. Similar to 37 la. So interest is payable, it is on capital borrowed, it is for the purpose of business or profession. இந்த மூணு கண்டிஷனும் satisfy ஆச்சுன்னா any interest can be claimed as deduction. Right? அப்புறமா வந்து whether interest borrowed for the purpose of capital asset can be claimed as deduction. Interest until it is put to use, நம்ம ஆல்ரெடி டெப்ரிசியேஷன்லயே பார்த்தோம், it is to be capitalized. அதுக்கப்புறமா இருக்கிற இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் வந்து you can claim it as deduction. Interest on capital be allowed as deduction under this section. Interest on capital அப்படின்னா என்னன்னா, ஸோ பேசிக்கலி இப்போ ப்ரொப்ரேட்டர்ஷிப் கன்சர்ன் இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கேன், அதில் வந்து 12% இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் ஆன் கேபிட்டல், 18% இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் ஆன் கேபிட்டல் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு போடுவாங்க. ஸோ அந்த இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட்டை வந்து கேன் பி கிளைம்ட் as deduction அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு கேட்டிருக்காங்க. நோ, இட் cannot be claimed as deduction because he cannot pay interest to himself. So அந்த ரீசன்னால he cannot claim that as deduction. Interest on capital cannot be done. Interest on capital borrowed உண்டு. Interest on capital employed cannot be claimed as deduction. So whether interest payable during the current year but paid in the subsequent year be allowed as deduction? Yes, based on the method of accounting employed by the SSE. If the accounting method is mercantile basis of accounting, you can. If it is cash basis of accounting, you cannot claim it as deduction. There are two bases of accounting actually, mercantile basis of accounting and cash basis of accounting. So it is at the option of the SSE, whatever the SSE wants, he can choose either a mercantile basis of accounting or cash basis of accounting. But only companies are compulsorily required to follow mercantile basis of accounting. Mercantile basis of accounting na accrual basis of accounting, right? So next one, whether interest genuinity of the interest payable by the SSE to be proved. If assume for example, நான் ஒரு புது business start பண்ண போறேன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு 10 crores loan எடுக்கிறேன்னு வச்சுக்கோ. Whether the assessing officer can come back and say that this is not for the purpose of business or profession, இது உனக்கு தேவையே இல்லை அப்படின்னு assessing officer வந்து சொல்ல முடியுமா அப்படின்றது தான் question. It is specifically said that he cannot do that. Next, whether interest on overdue payable can be claimed as reduction under this section. Overdue payable na ipo enak vandu settlement period irukum generally 30 days, 60 days, 90 days nu solittu. And the 90 days settlement period for trade liability. So trade liability vandu if I am going to settle it after 90 days, chuma or example ku solren, if it is said that settlement date is 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, 90 days settlement date அப்படின்னா, so from 91st day they will start to charge the interest. அப்போ நான் வந்து 91st டேல இருந்து நான் இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் பே பண்றேன்ல, அந்த இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட்டை கேன் ஐ கிளைம் இட் as டிடக்ஷன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு கேட்டிருக்காங்க. நோ, இட் cannot be claimed as deduction since it is not capital borrowed. However, இது வந்து டிடக்ஷனா 3613ல கிளைம் பண்ணலனாலும் we can say that it can be claimed as deduction under section 37 because 3613 speaks only about interest on capital borrowed, ரைட்டா? So interest on capital borrowed மட்டும் தான் இருக்கும். 37ல வந்து expenditure which is not covered under section 32 36 தான் இருக்கு. So interest on capital borrowed மட்டும் தான் 32 36ல இருக்கே தவிர interest on overdue payable 32 36ல இல்லவே இல்லை. So that can be claimed as deduction under section 37. Next வந்து discount on zero coupon bonds. Zero coupon bondsனா என்ன அப்படின்னா, ஸோ இப்போ கரண்ட் இயர்ல வந்து நான் ஒரு பாண்டை 90 rupeesக்கு வாங்கிட்டு, I mean, I'm a person who's issuing the bonds. If I'm a company, I'm going to issue the bonds. If I'll be issuing it at a discount and I will redeem this either at par or at a premium. 100 rupees face value, 100 rupees face value நான் கரண்ட் இயர் 90 rupees 90க்கு கொடுத்துட்டு 5 years கழிச்சு நான் 100க்கோ இல்ல 110க்கோ கொடுக்குறேன்னா, ரெடீம் பண்றேன்னா அந்த பாண்டினுடைய பேர் வந்து ஜீரோ கூப்பன் பாண்ட்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. பிகாஸ் பேசிக்கலி there will be no interest paid during this interim period. Okay, so whatever is the discount on the zero coupon bond, so if you are just taking the example of 100 rupees is payable at the time of maturity, so in the 10 rupees இருக்கு இல்லையா, in the 10 rupees வந்து it is the discount and என்னோட life and 5 years, so ஒரு இயருக்கு 2 rupees. So இந்த 2 rupees வந்து you can claim it as reduction on year basis. So it is applicable only for infrastructure capital company and public sector company or a scheduled bank. It is not applicable for central, I mean, it should be notified by the central government. Only in those cases you can claim the reduction under 3612. So there we come to the end of the entire deductions part. So first was the depreciation பார்த்துட்டோம், அந்த 4 இந்த பார்ட்டும் பார்த்துட்டோம். So first வந்து section 28 முடிஞ்சது, 29 முடிஞ்சிட்டு, அதுக்கப்புறமா வந்து deductions part. So deductions part is coming to an end with this part. Next is the part of disallowances. So now we are going to discuss about the disallowances part of PGBP. So as far as disallowances part of PGBP is concerned, so whenever there is an allowance, sorry, So wherever there is an allowance, அதனுடைய ஆப்போசிட் தான் disallowance, right? So இப்போ ஒரு allowance இருக்கு அப்படின்னா, if certain conditions are not satisfied, they say that this expenditure cannot be allowed for purposes of income tax act, right? So generally this is for regulating the sector, right? So இப்போ வந்து TDS பிடிக்கல அப்படின்னா நான் disallow பண்ணுவேன்னா, so that is to regulate that everybody should deduct TDS. If you are not paying certain payments on time, I'll not allow the expenditure. That means they just want to promote the payment of that specified expenditure on time. That is the reason. There is a reason why disallowances are actually there in the income tax act. First one, the expenses, which is this is one of the sections which is of some importance in examination, but practically this has a different relevance, right? In examination, maybe you cannot 2 in 1 question will have this section of section 38. So as far as section 38 is concerned, so expenses which are incurred partly for business and partly for personal purposes will be disallowed to the extent it is attributable for the personal purposes, right? So இப்போ rented property இருக்கு, rented propertyல வந்து 25% வந்து personalக்கும் 75% businessக்கும் யூஸ் பண்றான் அப்படின்னா, so whatever is allowable for the personal purposes cannot be claimed as deduction, right? Next is, so this is in relation to section 38. Next is section 40. So section 40AI, 40AIA, 48III. இது மூணு கொஞ்சம் இம்பார்ட்டன்டான செக்ஷன்ஸ், ரைட்? செக்ஷன் 40AI. ஸோ 40AIல என்ன சொல்லிருக்கு அப்படின்னா, notwithstanding anything to contrary, the following amount shall not be deducted in computing the PGBP. இதுதான் first line of 40AI. இதுக்கு மீனிங் என்னன்னா, so whenever there is a conflict between section 30 to 38 and section 40AI, section 40AI will override. So basically what they say is, if I say something is not allowable here, even though it is allowed specifically as per 30 to 38, that will not have any effect. அப்படின்றது தான் the first line of section says. So what does 40AI say is, in respect of any of these items, which is basically royalty, FTS, any other sum chargeable to tax, இது வந்து 195ல வரும். For the non-residents, generally TDS will be deducted under 195 and not under regular 194 series, excluding the 194E இருக்கு. So other than that, everything, the TDS will be deducted under section 195 and not the other sections. Okay. So as far as section 40I is concerned, if any payment of royalty is being made to a non-resident, FTS means fees for technical services, or any other sum which is chargeable to tax, if it is paid outside India or in India to a non-resident, either it is payable outside India or it is payable in India to a non-resident, in such case, that amount on which TDS is not deducted, the entire expenditure shall be disallowed. So either I should not have deducted TDS, or after deducting the TDS, I should not have paid within 139(1) due date. So ஒன்று நான் TDS டிடக்டே பண்ணிருக்க கூடாது, இல்லை TDS டிடக்ட் பண்ணிட்டு 139(1) due date. 139(1) due date என்னன்னா actual due date for filing the return of income. ஓகே, ஒரிஜினல் ரிட்டர்ன் ஆஃப் இன்கம். ஜென்ரலாக இண்டிவிஜுவல்ஸ்க்கு வந்து 31st ஜூலை இருக்கும். அதுக்கப்புறமா வந்து ஃபார் கம்பெனிஸ் இட் வில் பி அக்டோபர். நான் டிபி கேசஸ் it will be tax TP audit will be on November and this will be on December. So September வந்து tax audit, October வந்து due date for return. அதே மாதிரி நவம்பர் வந்து TP audit, அதுக்கப்புறமா டிசம்பர் வந்து அவங்களோட ரிட்டர்ன் due date. So this is the 139(1) due dates, a simple summary, right? So as far as 40AI is concerned, in case of royalty, FTS, or any other sum which is chargeable to tax, whether it is payable outside India or in India to a non-resident. So basically 40AI is applicable only for non-residents. Okay. இதில் வந்து disallowance is 100% disallowance. Disallowance under 40AI is 100% disallowance. 100% disallowance அப்படின்னா என்னன்னா, if I have not deducted TDS for 10,000 rupees அப்படின்னா, the entire 10,000 will be disallowed. The entire 10,000 will be disallowed. Right? Next is section 40AI. So this is what we have just seen now. So if TDS is deducted after 139(1) due date அப்படின்னா என்ன நடக்கும் அப்படின்னா, ஸோ 139(1) due dateக்கு முன்னாடி TDS பிடிக்கலன்னா கரண்ட் இயர் அது disallowed. இப்போ எந்த இயர் TDS பிடிச்சி கட்டுறியோ அந்த இயர்ல it can be claimed as deduction. Next is assessee in default. Assessee in default under 201 அப்படின்னா என்னன்னா, see, if assume for example I have not deducted TDS for a certain payment, but however the person who has received the payment has included that in his income and he has paid the requisite taxes. அப்படின்னா if his chartered accountant is going to provide a certificate that this income is included in the return of income அப்படின்னு கொடுத்துட்டாங்கன்னா the person who has not deducted TDS will not be deemed as assessee in default under 201. So அந்த கேசஸ்ல there is no disallowance. So ரெண்டு கேஸ்ல வந்து first in case of assessee in default அப்படின்னா assessee in default வந்து if he is not an assessee in default TDS is not required to be deducted. Second point வந்து if TDS is deducted after 139(1) due date அப்படின்னா if TDS is deducted after 139(1) due date, in such case the year in which TDS is deducted and paid shall be in that year he can claim the expenditure. So assume for example in assessment year 21-22 21 to 22 I have paid 10,000 without TDS. Okay va? So current year la enna agum, this will be disallowed. Okay, so assessment year 22-23 la na enna pandren, 22-23 la for this 10,000 I am just paying the TDS. Ipo in the 22-23 la this entire 10,000 can be claimed as deduction. Okay va? So specifically எந்த இயர்ல TDS புடிச்சு கட்டுறியோ அந்த இயர்ல எக்ஸ்பென்ஸ் எடுத்துக்கோன்னு சொல்றான். For non-residents 100% disallowance. Next வந்து 30% disallowance if the payment is made in India. இப்போ நீ ரெசிடென்ட்ஸ்க்கு பே பண்ற 40A வந்து is for non-residents, 40A is for residents. So 40A ல if payment is made in India and TDS it is deductible but not deducted. So first வந்து TDS deduction liability இருக்கும். அதுக்கு அப்புறமா நான் டிடக்ட் பண்ணாம இருக்கணும். There should be a TDS deduction liability and after that I should not have deducted TDS. In such case, what will happen is 30% disallowance. Adhe 10,000 எடுத்துட்டேன்னு வெச்சுக்கோ. For example, if you are just going to take the same 10,000, so what is the amount which will be disallowed in the current year அப்படின்னா 30%, which will be 3,000. Sorry, it will be 3,000. 3,000 will be disallowed in the current year. Okay. So TDS is deductible but not deducted. Or அதே கேஸ் தான், TDS deducted but not paid before 139(1) due date for all the payments on which TDS is required to be deducted. நம்ம முன்னாடி பார்த்தோம்ல, இதுக்கு முன்னாடி செஷன்ல what all the payments TDS is required to be deducted னு பார்த்தோம். So if there is a requirement to deduct and I have not deducted the TDS அப்படின்னா in such case there is disallowance under 40A or 40A as the case may arise. இப்போ ரெசிடென்ட்டுக்கு பே பண்ணியிருந்தா அது வந்து 30% disallowance, நான் ரெசிடென்ட்டுக்கு பே பண்ணியிருந்தா 100% disallowance. The reason is that they can easily catch the residents. நான் ரெசிடென்ட்ஸ் வந்து பின்னாடி போயிட்டு இன்கம் டேக்ஸ் வாங்குறது கஷ்டம், அதனால அங்க வந்து ஹையர் டிசலவன்ஸ், இங்க லோவர் டிசலவன்ஸ். ஐ அக்செப்ட் legally that is wrong அப்படின்னாலும், I mean legally means constitutionally we can say that there is not a parity between resident and non-resident treatment, but those things that is only for judiciary to decide. For our discussion, for the examination, we can simply say that in case the payment is covered under any of the TDS section, TDS is required to be deducted and it is not deducted, or after deduction it is not paid before 139(1) due date அப்படின்னா you will in case of a non-resident 100% disallowance of that expenditure. Second, in case of a resident there will be 30% disallowance of the expenditure. One general point in relation to disallowance is, for an expenditure to be disallowed, first it should be allowed. ஓகேவா? இப்போ இந்த 10,000 வந்து நான் டிசலோவ் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா இந்த 10,000 முதல்ல எனக்கு எக்ஸ்பென்ஸ் அலோவ் ஆயிருக்கணும். Only then this disallowance sections of any section which we are now going to discuss will come. If that expenditure is not only allowed, there is no concept of disallowance. இதுக்கு best example என்னன்னா capital expenditure. For capital expenditure, it will not be allowed as an expenditure. General cases la leave out the specific case of research expenditure or 3580. In general cases, it will not be allowed. So இப்போ capital expenditure நான் ஒன்று பண்றதுக்கு அதுக்கு TDS பிடிக்கல அப்படின்னா section 40A or 40A IA cannot come into force because that expenditure only it is not allowed. Okay. So next is 48III. This is for salary payment. If payment is in or outside India, it will be 100% disallowance. So those things are not that important. Next is 40AIB. If equalization is levy is required to be deducted, but it is not. Equalization levy is similar to TDS. But in Finance Act, specifically what they said is, what shall I'll just put it this way. Equalization levy is in relation to the BEPS Action Plan 1. So adala vandu BEPS 1.0 Action Plan 1 there were 3 recommendations for taxation of digital economy. Adala one of the recommendation is adopting an equalization levy, and the equalization levy it is not specified in the Income Tax Act, it was specified in Finance Act 2016 if I'm not wrong. So and the Finance Act la vandu 1 of the recommendations for adopting an equalization levy. Adala one of the recommendation is adopting an equalization levy, and the equalization levy it is not specified in the Income Tax Act, it was specified in Finance Act 2016 if I'm not wrong. So if the equalization levy is required to be deducted but it is not deducted na அதுக்கும் நாங்க வந்து I want to treat it on par with TDS அப்படின்றதுக்காக கொண்டு வந்தாங்க. This might not be tested in your examinations because you do not know what is equalization levy. Just for the sake of completeness we are just discussing it. Next is issues. We'll just take up certain issues. So sectionல உங்களுக்கு என்ன words கொடுத்திருக்குன்னா 30% of any sum payable to a resident on which tax is deductible at source. இது வந்து both for 40A and 40A the wordings are similar, right? So now 40A ல இருக்கிறத வச்சு we'll just discuss certain things. So 30% of any sum payable to a resident on which tax is deductible at source under chapter 17B and tax has not been deducted or after deduction has not been paid on or before 139(1) due date. இப்போ இங்க பார்த்தேன்னா உனக்கு இங்க என்ன வேர்ட்ஸ் யூஸ் பண்றதுக்கு any sum payable to an assessee, right? If any for you to disallow anything 40A that sum should be payable. இப்போ பேயபிள் தானே இருக்கு if it is already paid. இப்போ 31st மார்ச் அன்னைக்கு பேயபிளா இருந்துச்சுன்னா 40A வருமோ, பட் நான் ஆல்ரெடி பே பண்ணிட்டேன்னா என்ன பண்றது? Because what is given in the section, it is said any sum payable to a resident அப்படின்னு தான் சொல்றேன், கரெக்டா? Since the word payable is used in 40A, if payment is already made during the year and as at the end of the year there is no payment which is outstanding, இப்போ அந்த கேஸ்ல 40A disallowance கொண்டு வர முடியுமா அப்படின்றது தான் பாயிண்ட். So specifically, Supreme Court in the case of Palam Gas Services said no boss, no doing. What they said is, see, payable or whether it is paid or payable and the expenditure allowance, it is based on the method of accounting employed by the SSC. But what is envisaged here is not that. So if I'm liable to make a payment and I have not deducted TDS, it is liable for disallowance. அவ்வளவுதான். நீ அதை பே பண்ணியா பே பண்ணலையா அப்படின்றது it is not the issue of discussion அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு சுப்ரீம் கோர்ட் ஸ்பெசிஃபிகலி in the case of Palam Gas Services has held that. Next வந்து deduction at a lower rate. இப்போ இதுல பாரு, திரும்ப செக்ஷனுக்கு வந்து பாரு, 30% of any sum payable to a resident on which tax is deductible at source and such tax has not been deducted. Okay, so இப்போ assume for example நான் 194J ல 10% TDS பிடிக்கணும், நான் 194C ல 2% பிடிச்சிட்டேன். இப்போ disallowance பண்ணணுமா பண்ணக்கூடாது? ஏன்னா இங்க என்ன சொல்லிருக்கு, such tax has not been deducted னு கொடுத்திருக்கு. நான் tax டிடக்ட் பண்ணாம இல்ல, I have deducted some tax. So should I disallow this expenditure அப்படின்றது next point. So however there are two views in this. Calcutta High Court said that no this is if at all it is if it is deducted under wrong section you might not require to disallow. The Calcutta High Court held that where tax was deducted under a wrong provision or tax is deducted at lower rate, the provisions of this section would not apply since this section does not apply to shortfall of deduction but only to non-deduction. But Kerala High Court என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னா, no boss, no doing. See, whether you deduct it at a correct rate. If you are going to deduct it at a wrong rate, I will disallow it. அப்படின்றது Kerala High Court உடைய view. So இதுல செக்ஷன்ல என்ன கொடுத்திருக்கு, such tax has not been paid ன்னு கொடுத்திருக்கு. Such tax னா என்ன, tax which is deductible as per chapter 17B. So what is the tax which is deductible as per 17B? சும்மா இந்த கேஸ்ல 194J ல 10%. அப்ப 194J ல 10%க்கு கம்மியா எது பிடிச்சிருந்தாலும் அது வந்து it is wrong தான். So you have to disallow. That is what is said by Kerala High Court. So there are two views. This has not attained finality. Maybe you can I am more concerned have what to say comfortable with the view of Kerala High Court. Maybe whatever view you want you can just take that. That is not a problem. But என்ன பண்றேன்னா எக்ஸாம்ல எழுதுறச்சு இது வந்துச்சுன்னா இன்னைக்கு Kerala High Court எழுதுறேன்னா just mention that there is another view which is possible. Okay, next on the time of deduction. Any payment which is chargeable under the head salaries if it is payable outside India or to a non-resident and if tax has not been paid thereon nor deducted therefrom under chapter 17B. If tax is paid after due date under 139(1), this I don't think it will be tested for you. Since in the 139(1, I mean 48 ல வந்து டைம் லிமிட்டே கொடுத்துருக்க மாட்டாங்க, அதனால இந்த இஷ்யூ வருது. Next, capex purchase, we have already seen this. If TDS is not deducted for purchase of machinery or something, can disallowance be attracted? No, disallowance cannot be attracted. So that is in relation to 40 small a, I, IA, triple I, IB. Is this section clear first? Shall we go to the next one? Yes? No?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, we shall go. Next is related party payment. So any payment which is made by a related person shall be disallowed to the extent it is excessive or unreasonable. ஸோ ரிலேட்டட் பார்ட்டிக்கு நீ எந்த பேமெண்ட் மேக் பண்ணாலும் அன்ரீசனபிளாக இருக்கிற போர்ஷன் வந்து இட் ஷால் பி டிசலவ். ஓகேவா? So what do you mean by related party? Related party na, in case of an individual, it is spouse, brother, sister, lineal ascendant or descendant. Lineal ascendant na appa tata kollu tata எல்லாருமே லைனா அப்படியே. டிசரன்னா பையன் பேரன் கொள்ளு பேரன் லைக் எவ்ரிபடி அண்டர் யூ, எவ்ரிபடி அப்பர் யூ, ஃப்ரண்ட் பேக், ஃபோர் ஃபாதர்ஸ் அண்ட் யுவர் சைல்டு அண்ட் டிசெண்டன்ஸ். ஓகே, ஸோ லீனியல் அசெண்டன்ட் ஆர் டிசெண்டன்ட் அண்ட் ஹூஸ் ஹேவிங் அ சப்ஸ்டான்ஷியல் இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் இன் யுவர் பிஸ்னஸ். இது எல்லாமே இண்டிவிஜுவல்ஸ்க்கு ரிலேட்டடான ரிலேட்டட் பார்ட்டி. நெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து in case of a company, what do you mean by related party na? Sorry, in case of an individual itself, what do you mean by substantial interest na? If it is a company, if I am holding more than 20% of the voting power of that company, I and that company are related parties. If in a firm I am having more than 20% of share of profits na, I and that firm is a related party. That is in relation to individual. Next, in relation to a company, who are related parties, director is a related party, person in whose business company or director has substantial interest. So if assume for example I am having a subsidiary company, okay, so if அந்த கம்பெனில வந்து எனக்கு obviously interest இருக்கும், right? Person in whose business company or director has substantial interest. So if assume for example I am having a firm and that firm oda 60% of share profits are held by company, firm la LLP la. So in that case a person in whose business company or director has substantial interest in the point la adu varum. So basically if company is going to have substantial interest in any person, that is going to come. And if that company is going to carry on business with any person who is having, with which the company has a substantial interest, in such case basically என்னுடைய holding company, subsidiary company எல்லாமே இந்த பாயிண்ட்ல வரும். In case of a firm, partners of the firm are related parties. In case of an AOP, members of the AOP are related parties. In case of an HUF, members of the HUF, and a person in whose business or profession the HUF or any of its members have substantial interest. So if assume for example if HUF holds 60% share in any company, that person and this HUF are related parties, right? So in case of related party payments, whatever is in case of a related party person, whatever is going to be the excessive payment or unreasonable, which is as per the assessing officer, can alone be disallowed. Okay. That is in relation to 40 capital A clause 2. Next is 40A3. 40A3 was introduced with a view that any cash payment, if it is going to be made, they just wanted to discourage the cash payment, and that is the reason why the section was introduced. If the assessee is going to make any payment in excess of 10,000 in cash, right? Others, our wordings கொடுத்திருக்கிறது in any mode other than account pay check, account pay draft, or other electronic modes as may be prescribed னு கொடுத்திருப்பாங்க. So it will be like anything. So basically வந்து 2 or 3 things will alone be there. ஜென்ரலா நமக்கு வந்து கேஷ் பேமெண்ட்ஸ் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு வச்சுக்கலாம். அதுக்கப்புறமா செக்ல வந்து ஒரு ஸ்பெசிஃபைட் டைப் ஆஃப் செக் மட்டும் இட் வில் பி டிசர்வ்ட் அண்டர் 40A3, ரைட்? ஸோ இங்க அக்கௌண்ட் பே செக்னு இருக்குல்ல, அக்கௌண்ட் பே செக், அக்கௌண்ட் பே டிராஃப்ட்னு இருக்குல்ல, அக்கௌண்ட் பே செக்குக்கு பதிலாக ஹோல்டர் செக்னு சொல்லிட்டு சொல்லுவாங்க. லைக் இட் கேன் பி வித்ட்ராட் இன் கேஷ். அந்த செக் வந்து இட் ஷுட் பி ட்ரீட்டட் ஆன் பார் வித் கேஷ். அதான். அதர் தேன் தட் தேர் இஸ் நத்திங். ஸோ if the assessee has made payment on a single day in excess of 10,000, இங்க வந்து it is based on payment basis தான். So assume for example I just incurred the expense in the current year. அப்போ current yearல வந்து நான் payment make பண்ணவே இல்லை, அந்த எக்ஸ்பெண்டிச்சர் நம்ம பேமெண்ட்டே மேக் பண்ணல. நான் அசஸ்மெண்ட் இயர் 22-23ல மேக் பண்றேன் பேமெண்ட் அப்படின்னா 22-23ல in the year in which the payment is made, in that year it can be disallowed to the extent the payment is made in excess of 10,000. Okay va? So what can we do is if the value of transaction is 50,000, 5,000 10 different days pay பண்ணாங்கன்னா it is not a problem. You are not going to attract disallowance under section 40A3. Next is there are certain exceptions to 40A3 and that is a huge list. அதில் ஒரு important points மட்டும் I'm just taking here. So wherever a payment is made by way of a book adjustment, the section of 40A3 will not apply. Book adjustment na என்னன்னா கார்த்திக் has to give Naveen 5 lakhs, Naveen has to give Karthik 5 lakhs. ரெண்டு பேரும் புக்லயே அட்ஜஸ்ட் பண்ணிக்கிறோம், யாருமே யாருக்கும் கேஷ் கொடுக்கல. ஸோ அது வந்து 40A3ல டிசலவ் ஆகாது. ஈவன் தோ வி சே தட் 40A3 இஸ் கேஷ் பேமெண்ட், அவங்க என்ன கொடுத்துருக்காங்க பாரு, இன் எனி மோட் அதர் தேன் அக்கௌண்ட் பே செக் ஆர் அக்கௌண்ட் பே டிராஃப்ட் ஆர் அதர் எலக்ட்ரானிக் மோட்ஸ்னு கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. இப்போ புக் செட்டில்மெண்ட் வந்து இட் இஸ் நெய்தர் அக்கௌண்ட் பே செக் நார் அக்கௌண்ட் பே டிராஃப்ட், இட் இஸ் நாட் பை எனி அதர் எலக்ட்ரானிக் மோட்ஸ், ரைட்? ஸோ தட் இஸ் த ரீசன் வை it has been specifically mentioned in Rule 6DD. So wherever the payment is made by way of a book adjustment or if it is made for an agricultural person. So if the payment is being made for agricultural produce to the farmer, or produce of animal husbandry or poultry farming, fish produce, horticulture or apiculture. So இது எல்லாமே it is in relation to agriculture, right? So if the payment is made in a village or town on the date of which the payment is not served by any bank, and the townல எந்த பேங்க்குமே இல்ல, village or townல, if there is no bank in that town, then that payment cannot be disallowed. On the same date, wherever the payment is made on a day in which the banks are closed either on account of holiday or strike. If the bank is closed on account of holiday or strike, even in such case, disallowance under 40A3 cannot be attracted. Okay, wow. So next is 40A9. So 40A9 it might not be tested. 40A7 and 40A9 are similar. 40A9 wherever an expenditure is expended for the purpose of setting up or formation of any other fund, in such case that amount shall not be allowed as an expenditure. இது எந்த கேஸ்ல வரும்னா, so in generally இப்போ gratuity trust, gratuity fundலாம் they'll establish. So அந்த மாதிரி gratuity trust establish பண்றச்சு they will give up certain funds, and the funds shall not be allowed as deduction அப்படின்னு சொல்றான். So that is in relation to 40A9. I understand 40A7 is not discussed. I'll come to that. Okay. Next is section 43B. 43B is one of the very, very important sections, which specifically says that when this section is applicable only if you are following mercantile basis of accounting. 43B is not applicable if you are going to follow cash basis of accounting. As per section 43B, wherever generally இதில் இருக்க payments எல்லாமே பார்த்தனா it is either related to government or welfare of the people, அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கும். இதில் இருக்க எதனா ஒன்று அடி வாங்குச்சுன்னா நிறைய பேருக்கு அடி வரும். அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு பேமெண்ட்ஸ் தான் 43B இருக்கும். 43B என்ன ட்ரை பண்றாங்க அப்படின்னா, I want to make encourage certain payments to be done on time for it to be allowed as deduction அப்படின்னு சொல்றாங்க. Certain things should be paid on time for it to be claimed as deduction அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு சொல்றாங்க. That is what is given in section 43B. As far as 43B is concerned, generally இப்போ இப்படி ஒரு சிம்பிளோட வச்சுக்கணும்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க, அது லிஸ்ட் பெருசா இருக்கும். அதில் நம்ம will just find a way to do this. So இப்போ tax, duty or cess or fee, it is payable to government, கரெக்டா? So 43B in the listல இருக்க எல்லா payments it can be claimed as deduction only if it is paid before 139(1) due date. If it is paid after 139(1) due date அப்படின்னா it cannot be claimed as deduction. So all of these things can be claimed as deduction only if it is paid before 139(1) due date, and if it is paid after 139(1) due date, you cannot claim it as deduction in the current year. What does that mean? So if assessment year 23-24, correcta? Assessment year 23-24 நோடைய corresponding financial year என்ன? Financial year 22-23, right? So financial year 22-23 will end on which date? 31-3-23, correcta? So 1st April 22 இருந்து 31st March 23 வரைக்கும் இருக்கிற certain payments. அந்த பீரியட்ல நான் ஒரு எக்ஸ்பெண்டிச்சர் இன்கர் பண்றேன். Okay, I have incurred some expenditure in the period of 22-23, financial year 22-23, that is 1st April 22 to 31st March 23. இப்போ அது is payable as on 31st March 23. Assume for example bonus. இப்போ bonus 31st March 23 அன்னைக்கு outstanding இருக்கு, it is not paid, right? அதுக்கப்புறமா நான் என்ன பண்றேன், on 1st of April I am making the payment. Since I am making the payment on 1st of April and it is before 139(1) due date, that can be claimed as deduction in this financial year itself. உனக்கு already P&L இது expense நீ credit பண்ணிட்டு இருக்க, debit பண்ணிட்டு இருக்க. Even though this is debited, all these payments are debited in your P&L, it can be claimed as deduction only if it is paid. Only if it is paid. So which means this section is relevant only for persons who are following mercantile basis of accounting. For the persons who are following cash basis of accounting, this is not going to have any impact at all, because for him to claim the expenditure, first it should be paid. அப்பதான் cash basis of accounting இருக்கிறவனுக்கு expenditure claim பண்ண முடியும், right? So however, accrual basis of accounting இருக்கிறவங்க, if these payments are not paid as per 31st of March, that should be paid before 139(1) due date for it to be claimed. 139(1) due date குள்ள payment make பண்ணல அப்படின்னா it will be disallowed in the current year and it can be claimed in the further years. It will be disallowed in the current year and can be claimed in the further years. Okay, so how to remember this? So idhula pathena tax, duty, cess or fee, use of railway assets. This it is in relation to government. Okay, so 2 in relation to government. Next, payable by the assessee as an employer by way of contribution to PF, superannuation fund, gratuity fund. I'll just come to this. There ஒரு point இருக்கு. I'll just come to that. சும்மா இப்போதைக்கு இது பார்த்துக்கோங்க. This is in relation to employee. Bonus or commission is in relation to employee. Leave at the credit of the employee is in relation to employee. So 3 in relation to employees. Okay, so interest on loan or borrowing from a public financial institution or state financial corporation. Interest on loan or borrowing from, I guess this is just a mistake. I'll just go to the act. I'll show that to you there. So totally there will be 1, 2, 3 interest related. There will be 3. Right. So here there is a wording difference. I'll just go there. Yeah. So either it will be to public financial institution or state financial corporation, or it will be to any public scheduled bank. So if it is to a scheduled bank, then it will come there. So totally that is the 3 things. It should be a public financial institution or state financial corporation or a scheduled bank, or interest or loan should be from a primary cooperative society or agricultural society. So in all those cases, it can be claimed as deduction only if payment is made before 139(1) due date. If payment is made after 139(1) due date, it cannot be claimed as deduction. Right. So if payment is made after 139(1) due date, அப்படினா என்ன ஆகும்னா, it shall be allowed as deduction in the year in which the payment is made. Right. One more point is if interest is converted into a separate loan. இப்போ வந்து இங்க இடத்துல பார்த்தேன்னா இங்க ஒரு இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் இருக்கு, இங்க ஒரு இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் இருக்கு, இங்க ஒரு இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் இருக்கு. இந்த 3 இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட்மே what shall I do? Only if it is paid I can claim it as deduction. கரெக்ட்டா? ஸோ இப்போ நான் என்ன பண்றேன், ஒரு அக்ரிமெண்ட் பேங்க் கூட போயிட்டு இந்த இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட்டை வந்து லோனா கன்வெர்ட் பண்ணிடுறேன். அப்படி லோனா கன்வெர்ட் பண்ணிட்டேன்னா only when I am repaying such loan it can be claimed as deduction. Right? Second on the employer's contribution. This is a very big discussion. 3615A read with 43B and 47. So all these things will come. But Chumana, since this is only for the purpose of exam, I'll just give you the crux. I'm not getting deep into the issue which is involved. So if you have PF pathana, there will be 2 points. One is employer contribution, next one is employee's contribution. Okay, so employer contribution, if it is made before 139(1) due date, it can be claimed as deduction. However, employee's contribution, it is actually, it is nothing to the, it has nothing to do with the employer. But in the employee's contribution, first what they'll do is they'll deem it as the income of the employer as per 22410. 22410 the income are deemed பண்ணிட்டு 3615 they'll say that if it is paid before the due date specified in the specified acts, either PF Act or ESI Act, so if it is paid within that date, it can be claimed as deduction அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு சொல்லுவாங்க. So employee contribution if it is not paid within 15th of next month, it cannot be claimed as deduction at all. Okay, employee's contribution, if it is not paid within 15th of next month, it can never be claimed as deduction at all. Employer's contribution, it is covered by 3615A. This is covered by 43B. Okay, so 43B all the provisions of 43B will apply only for employer's contribution. Employee contribution 3615A they have specifically said that if it is not paid within 15th of next month, it cannot be claimed as deduction. Right. So with this, the chapter of disallowances also is done. So இதுல 40A7 it will be in relation to gratuity. So 40A7 gratuity la enna சொல்லிருப்பாங்க அப்படினா, so I guess this is missed in the slide. I'll just tell that. So in case of 40A7, what would be there is, so if there is any gratuity which has been established and gratuity nam payment பண்ணிருக்கோம், just na provision போட்டு வச்சிருந்தா பத்தாது. Only if the gratuity is paid, only in such case I can claim it as deduction. Either I should contribute it to some third party vendor, or I should pay it to the employee. Only in such case gratuity can be claimed as expense. If not, it cannot be claimed as an expenditure. Provision for gratuity is not allowable as an expenditure. With that, our discussion on disallowances also comes to an end.